You need to hear this. No one else has dared to ask, and even fewer have lived long enough to whisper it. What if the world you think is safe, the one you breathe, the one you build your dreams on, isn't safe at all? What if beneath its surface, beneath everything familiar, there's a truth so monstrous, so utterly unforgiving, that it shatters every hope, every plan, every second of your existence? I'm not here as some detached storyteller. I'm not narrating this from a safe distance. I'm here because I saw it. I was there. And now, after all the silence, I'm telling you because this secret is leaking through the cracks. And it's only a matter of time before everyone knows, or disappears trying. You might think you understand what habitable means. You might think a planet like Earth, just a little bigger, a little stronger, a little different, is a new frontier, a promise of survival. But what if the very thing that makes this planet super is the reason it kills every human who sets foot on it? What if this super Earth isn't a savior, but a silent executioner, crushing, cooking, erasing lives in an instant? No one talks about it. No one warns you because it's too late the moment you realize. Too late when the crushing pressure isn't just in your lungs, but in every cell, every bone, every heartbeat that suddenly becomes a desperate race against oblivion. Too late when the atmosphere isn't a blanket but a furnace, burning from the outside in, stripping away flesh and hope. I should have stayed away. I should have never opened the files I found, buried deep in a vault labeled classified, do not access. But I didn't. And now this isn't just a story, it's a warning. And if you're hearing me now, if you're reading these words, you are the only one who knows. You're the witness to something forbidden, something hidden beneath layers of silence and lies. There was a moment, just one, when the world around me fractured. It was a quiet morning in the research colony. The air was thick with tension, but no one knew why until it was too late. A young scientist, Evelyn, vanished. Not disappeared like a person lost in the crowd or swallowed by the wilderness. She vanished as if the space she occupied had been erased, her body evaporating into thin air, leaving behind nothing but a faint echo, a whisper, a name no one had ever heard before. Her last words were barely audible, carried on a breath too fragile to be understood. A name that didn't belong to anyone living, a name that unsettled the entire colony. That whisper shattered our reality, pulled back the veil on a secret none of us wanted to see. It was the first crack in the illusion that this planet could ever be home for humans. Then the baby, the colony's newest life, born with eyes wide, open to a cruel new world, spoke in a voice no one recognized. Not their own language, not the tongue of their parents or the echoes of the settlers, but something old, something alien. The name the baby repeated wasn't in any records, wasn't written in any logbooks or data streams. It was a call, a warning, or a summons, and it froze us all. And as if that wasn't enough, the voice of a long-dead ancestor filtered through the colony's communication system, a crackling, eerie presence on the other side of a device that should have been silent. The voice spoke truths no one alive could have known, secrets about the planet's nature that the official files never dared mention. I want you to understand, this isn't paranoia or hallucination. It's a fracture in the fabric of our understanding, something we were never supposed to witness. But now you have, and it changes everything. Because this super Earth, it's not just a bigger, better world. It's a trap, a crucible designed to burn away everything that isn't native to it. A living nightmare that welcomes humanity with open arms, only to crush them beneath its surface, cook them alive in its atmosphere, and erase their very existence without a trace. You think you're safe where you are, but the truth is already creeping in. The crushing weight is not just physical, it's psychological, existential. It's the unbearable knowledge that no matter how far we travel, how advanced we become, some places are simply not meant for us, and some questions are best left unasked. But you asked, and now you're here. And just when you thought the story couldn't get darker, the colony's mainframe flickered to life with a message that no one sent, a message that didn't come from any human source. The screen went black, then flashed a single chilling phrase. Prepare to be consumed. That's when the walls started closing in. The screen didn't just go black, it collapsed into a silence so thick it swallowed the very breath in my lungs. The phrase, prepare to be consumed, hung there like a poisoned promise, burning itself into the backs of my eyelids. But then the lights flickered once, twice, and everything was gone. The message disappeared, as if it had never been there at all, like a bad dream vanishing the moment you try to hold on to it. Was it real? Or had my mind, frayed and raw from exhaustion and fear, stitched together some cruel hallucination? That question clawed at me relentlessly, twisting inside my head like a venomous snake. Every creak in the metal corridors, every flicker of static in the comms, whispered doubt. The colony's once steady hum now felt fractured, riddled with glitches, audio loops repeating fragments of conversations I couldn't place, voices just out of reach, echoes of warnings I couldn't quite remember hearing, memories I was sure I had, now replaced with blank spaces that terrified me more than any ghost or shadow. And then there was the second voice, a presence I hadn't expected and couldn't fully trust. Her name was Mara, a fellow researcher, with eyes too sharp, a smile that never quite reached them, and a way of speaking that always felt like she was holding something back. She showed up when the lights died, slipping silently into my room like a ghost herself, her presence both comforting and deeply unsettling. She told me the message was a prank, a data glitch, a trick of tired brains pushed too far, but her calmness only stirred a deeper paranoia. Was she really on my side, or was she part of the puzzle I was too broken to see? She laughed off my fears, brushing them away with soft words that sounded like a lullaby meant to put a child to sleep. But the lullaby was poison, because every time I tried to hold on to what I'd seen, what I'd heard, Mara's version of events chipped away at my certainty, rewriting my reality like a sinister editor erasing the inconvenient truth. "You're imagining things," she said once, her voice low, almost tender, but with a sharp edge that cut through my defenses. The colony's been under stress. It's a real unsolved mystery how much this planet is messing with our minds. But there's no secret message, no threat. What you saw, it's what they don't want you to remember because it's not real. Her words echoed in my head. A cruel loop, truth or manipulation. The line blurred, melting into a fog thick enough to drown in. I couldn't tell if I was spiraling into madness or if something supernatural was reaching out from the dark corners of this planet to tear my mind apart. The deeper I fell into this abyss of uncertainty, the more the past began to slip away. Moments vanished like smoke through my fingers, snippets of conversations with Evelyn, flashes of the baby's haunting voice, the dead ancestor's message. Were they fragments of a buried trauma, or warnings disguised as hallucinations? I found hidden recordings on my terminal, files I never saved, conversations I didn't remember having, contradicting everything I believed. Was I losing my grip? Or had the truth been buried so deep that even my memories were being rewritten to protect me, or to imprison me? Mara stayed close, always watching, her presence a constant reminder that I might not be alone in this nightmare, or that I might be utterly alone, trapped inside a mind unraveling beneath the weight of what no one dares to say aloud. And somewhere, in the thick silence between what's said and unsaid, the real horror lingered. What if the super-Earth's crushing embrace wasn't just physical? What if it was a force that crushed sanity, cooking minds slowly with doubt, until no one could tell what was real or what was just another fragment of a truth they never wanted us to find? The line between breakdown and supernatural interference dissolved like mist at dawn, leaving nothing but cold dread and the whisper of a name, one that neither Mara nor I dared speak aloud. The truth was waiting, but so was something darker, and it was watching us back. The morning light filtered weakly through the frost-coated windows of the colony's observation deck, casting long, distorted shadows that seemed to stretch like fingers, grasping for something lost in time. I stared at the screen before me, breath caught between hope and dread, as lines of data scrolled endlessly, promising answers to a question that had gnawed at my sanity for weeks. This was it. The hidden truth finally uncloaked, the mystery uncovered. I could almost taste the relief in that moment, the sharp clarity of finally understanding what had been whispered, erased, and buried beneath layers of silence and denial. It felt like a memory glitch repairing itself, like a locked drawer finally springing open to reveal the secrets no one wanted me to find. The message on the screen wasn't a hallucination. It was a warning encrypted within the planet's own seismic data, a code embedded in the very tremors beneath our feet, a pulse that had echoed for centuries before we arrived. But then, like a shadow bleeding into light, the clarity began to warp. The deeper I dug, the more I realized this wasn't just some accidental warning. It was a reflection, an echo from the past, from a time when a similar colony had vanished without trace, wiped out by the same crushing force, the same furnace heat, the same unrelenting pressure that had swallowed Evelyn and threatened us now. But those records were incomplete, smudged and corrupted, as if someone had gone to lengths to erase every scrap of evidence, every survivor's account carefully pruned from history. The old log spoke of whispered names, voices that no one dared repeat, and disappearances so sudden they left behind nothing but fear and silence. The parallels clawed at my mind like a nightmare half-remembered from childhood, something I had lived through in fragments, but buried so deep I couldn't trust my own memory. Was I chasing a ghost from my own past or a real, breathing nightmare stalking us still? And then it hit me. The detail that unraveled everything. Amid the reconstructed data, I found a single signature frequency hidden beneath the planet's geological heartbeat, a pattern identical to the one playing in my own dreams. The strange lullabies I'd heard in sleep, the faint voice that Mara insisted was just my mind cracking under pressure. The planet's crushing embrace wasn't random. It was watching. It was waiting. It was aware. The realization settled like a cold stone in my gut, twisting the familiar fear into something far more intimate and sinister. This wasn't just a hostile environment. It was a presence, psychological, atmospheric, almost sentient, that had been here all along, cloaked beneath the planet's surface, weaving its influence into our minds, shaping our fears and memories, blurring the line between reality and nightmare. It was a force that didn't just consume bodies. It devoured souls, feeding off the fractured pieces of our shattered certainty. And the worst part? I wasn't crazy. They lied to me. They lied to all of us. But as the screen flickered one last time, revealing a cryptic code just before dying, a new message appeared, something that froze my blood and made the ground beneath me feel suddenly unsteady. Not words, but a sequence of symbols that I couldn't decipher, etched deep into my mind like a tattoo I hadn't agreed to carry. The same symbols, the same pattern had appeared in my earliest dreams, on the walls of forgotten rooms in my childhood. Home, rooms I had no recollection of entering until that moment. It was as if the entire story, every fractured memory and terrifying revelation, was tied to something I had lived through but erased, a trauma buried beneath layers of denial and time. The colony, the planet, the crushing pressure, they were all pieces of a puzzle I'd thought I was solving, only to realize that the puzzle was shifting beneath my hands. The story I'd been living wasn't linear. It looped and folded in on itself like a fractured mirror reflecting a truth I wasn't ready to face. And now, as the last flicker of the screen died, I knew I had to go back through every moment, every whisper, every shadow, and watch it all again, this time knowing what I know now. Because this story wasn't just about a super-Earth that crushed humans like insects. It was about the secret watching us from the beginning, waiting patiently for the moment we'd see the cracks and fall through them. You're not crazy. They lied to you. And the truth? It's far worse than anything you imagined. There were others. I don't know how I missed them for so long. It began subtly, too subtly to notice at first. The blinking cursor on my terminal started pulsing in, a rhythm that felt deliberate. Not mechanical, not glitch. A heartbeat. And when I matched the timing with the low humming I'd been hearing through the walls at night, it formed a pattern, a code, but not one I could solve alone. I only saw the full shape when I glanced up at the hallway monitor outside my room and noticed the same flickering frequency mirrored in the emergency override lights. Red, pause, red, red, pause. The colony AI flagged nothing unusual. But this wasn't just light. It was language, a silent call across time. The next morning I found the first message, tucked between pages of the equipment diagnostics log, printed in faded ink that hadn't been used since the first landing party. You were right all along. Keep your mouth shut. Watch the sky at 0317. Don't trust Mara. My breath hitched. I hadn't told anyone about the sky, how it sometimes shimmered in patterns too synchronized to be natural, how the stars seemed to move when I wasn't looking directly at them, like they were watching me from behind a veil. I checked the timestamp. The log entry was dated 20 years ago, 2 full decades before I arrived, and yet it described everything I was just beginning to understand. The dream sequences, the pressure behind the eyes, the static in my teeth. Someone else had lived this, seen this, and they had tried, failed to warn the next. I wasn't alone, but I wasn't free either. That night the dream returned, only this time it wasn't mine. I was inside someone else's memory. A child's room, flooded with orange light, a wall of drawings, symbols etched over and over. Again, the same ones I had seen in my corrupted seismic readouts, and a face in the window, not quite human, staring in, watching, smiling. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. The pressure in my chest felt all too familiar. Crushing, cooking, suffocating. When I woke, there was a small cut along my rib cage. Not deep, but deliberate. Surgical. Like someone or something had marked me. The colony was no longer silent. I began to notice the others. Quiet, strange moments where eyes met too long, too knowingly. Technician whose pupils didn't dilate under light. A maintenance worker who whispered equations in her sleep that she shouldn't have known. A child sketching constellations we hadn't mapped. None of them acknowledged the truth out loud. But they were watching, waiting, playing their roles in a story that had started long before me and would not end with me. They communicated in glances, in timing, in sound. A misplaced object here, a humming in the vents there, hidden recordings that contradicted my logs, security footage from places I hadn't visited, but where I was clearly seen standing still, staring at nothing for hours at a time. I had no memory of those moments, but the system insisted the footage was real. Found footage from 20 years ago, my ID tag, my face. No explanation. I felt my identity splintering, memory untrustworthy, perception compromised. The dreams, the wounds, the voices in recordings that matched my own voice but said things I never remembered speaking. Was I part of them? Or just another piece in whatever game was being played beneath our understanding? And then the observer came. He wasn't part of the colony, at least not visibly. He appeared on an unsecured feed late one night, frame locked, grainy, like an old analog transmission forcing its way through modern systems. No sound, just a man, backlit in red, with the colony schematics spread out behind him, and those same cursed symbols scrawled across his chest in ash. He didn't move for 5 minutes. Then he held up a card to the lens, a handwritten message trembling in the camera's flicker. They control memory through the bones. You were never sent here. You were awakened. Tell no one. The feed died. No record of it remained, except my memory. My cursed, unreliable, maybe altered memory. But it felt true in a way nothing else did. Suddenly the colony felt staged, designed, the walls too smooth, the behavior too rehearsed. I found Mara in the hydroponics bay, standing completely still in front of a dead vine. She didn't turn when I spoke, didn't blink. When I finally touched her shoulder, she looked through me and whispered, "They don't like when we remember the field," then collapsed. She doesn't remember saying it, she doesn't remember the field. But I do, from before. Before I ever signed up for this mission, before I ever left Earth, before Earth. A place I can't fully describe. Just heat, silence, and pressure. A field of machines half buried in ash. Something ancient humming beneath the surface, and a voice. My voice. Counting backward from a number I didn't choose. Nothing is as it seems. The people here aren't people. The mission was never a mission. And now, the others are beginning to remember too. Not all at once, but in waves. Shared dreams. Sudden phrases said in unison. Symbols appearing in condensation on the windows. And always, the observer watching. We were right all along. But we were never supposed to be right. And now, with the pressure building, with the sky warping again in that same unnatural shimmer, with one more piece of found footage loading into my console, footage showing me speaking in a voice I do, not recognize saying things that should never be said, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't a story I walked into. This was a signal, and I was the broadcast. The sky outside had turned from its usual deep, endless black into a strange, bruised violet, a color neither natural nor comforting. It wasn't the cosmos watching anymore. It was something else, something that had been there all along, just beneath the surface, pulsing quietly in the background of my mind like a low, relentless heartbeat. The truth was no longer about what had happened, or even who I was. The question now was why this place, why this mission, why me? I sat alone in the dim glow of the control room, fingers trembling over the console, knowing every keystroke might fracture my fragile grasp on reality further. The recordings, the cryptic messages, the shared dreams, these were fragments, but they weren't random. They were a mirror, reflecting something far deeper than any of us had dared to admit. The fragile, breaking human spirit trying desperately to find meaning amid chaos, to hold on to identity when everything tries to erase. The observer's message echoed in my mind. They control memory through the bones. It was a metaphor, but also a brutal, literal truth. The past wasn't just recorded in data logs or fading photographs. It was etched deep into us, into the very cells and sinews of our bodies. And with every lost memory, every erased name, a part of humanity itself was slowly dying. Or maybe it was being reborn. The line was impossibly thin. I felt the weight of all those who'd come before me, their silent screams woven into the static, their vanished selves lingering like shadows in the back of my mind. And in this crushing silence, I realized something profoundly painful. This wasn't just a conspiracy or a cosmic accident. It was a reflection of our own darkest truths, the pieces of ourselves we buried deep because facing them would destroy us. The room was cold. The pressure building, not just outside but inside me, in my chest, where hope and fear warred with equal ferocity. I saw Mara's face flash before me, her whispered warning, her sudden collapse, and I understood it wasn't just her body breaking. It was her spirit caught between forgetting and remembering, between surrender and fight. And then, in the stillness, I confessed, to myself, to the empty room, to the silent watchers I couldn't see. I am afraid. Not of the pressure crushing me, not of the unknown lurking beyond the stars, but of losing myself completely, of becoming just another lost echo in a story I never wanted to be part of realizing that the truth I've hunted for so long might not save me but shatter me irreparably. But maybe, just maybe, that was the point. Maybe the terrifying awakening wasn't in the discovery itself, but in the choice we make once it's revealed, whether to be broken by the truth or to let it remake us. The screen flickered. The symbols glowed faintly in the corner, pulsing like a heartbeat, waiting for an answer I wasn't sure I could give. And in that suspended moment, I felt the impossible weight of freedom, because some truths don't want to be found. But if you find them anyway, what then, what then? The violet sky deepened and I knew the dream was ending, but the awakening was only beginning. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for stories you were never meant to. Here. Until next time, remember, some truths don't want to be found.